what if I told you that investing, the thing that seems so complicated and just for Wall Street types, is actually pretty easy? Okay, let's get into this, because there really is a simple, proven way to do this right for the long haul.
Right. You've heard it a million times with gambling. The house always wins. The odds are just stacked against you. Well, investing is kind of similar in that the big guys, the huge institutions, they have an edge. But here's the huge difference. Unlike a casino, there are actual, proven strategies that can give you a fantastic shot at building wealth over time.
So, how do you learn to do it right? You can forget all those get-rich-quick ebooks you see online. The real secret, and honestly, this is the fun part, is to learn from people who are just awful at investing. I'm talking about the people who treat their brokerage account like it's a slot machine in Vegas. So let's do it. Let's dig into the mind of a classic bad investor. Because if we can understand everything they do wrong, it becomes so much clearer how to do everything right.
Oh, you know the type. Their entire strategy is just feelings, emotion, not logic. They'll take half their savings and just dump it into some super sketchy penny stock. Then, to diversify, they'll put the other half into a tech stock that's already gone to the moon. And you better believe, every single day, they are absolutely convinced it's about to explode.
And here's why we study these folks. Their story almost always ends in one of two ways. Either they lose almost all of their money, and then they lose the rest trying to win it back, or they get super lucky one time, they double their money, and then, feeling like a genius, they lose everything trying to catch that same lightning in a bottle a second time.
And that whole idea brings us to the single most important concept we're going to talk about. It is the crucial difference between chasing the best investment and finding the optimal one.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. What this is really saying is that those unbelievable 1,000% returns, they usually don't come from some brilliant strategy. They come from pure random luck, basically picking the right lottery ticket with a 4-letter stock symbol.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Look, the best investment, looking backwards, might have been something like Dogecoin with its insane return. But that was a lottery ticket. It was based on luck, and you can't repeat it. The optimal investment, on the other hand, is something like an index fund, which holds thousands of stocks at once. It gives you a solid, probable return, and it's a strategy you can repeat year after year after year.
Chasing that so-called best investment, it's literally the same as walking up to a roulette table and putting all your money on green. Your chance of winning is tiny, just over 2.5%. If you happen to hit it, you're not a genius. You just got really, really lucky that one time.
Okay, so if we're not supposed to be gambling, what are we supposed to be doing? Well, the answer comes from the philosophy of a true giant in the world of finance.
I want you to meet John C. Bogle. He's the guy who founded Vanguard, and he did something that was basically unheard of on Wall Street. He was considered the good guy. His entire life's mission was to help regular people like you and me actually succeed at investing.
And he wasn't just talk. Bogle's simple philosophy is estimated to have saved everyday investors about $1 trillion in fees. A trillion with a T. He set up his company, Vanguard, so that the profits go back to the investors themselves, not into his own pockets.
So what was his secret? It's this beautifully simple approach. It's called a 3-fund portfolio. That's it. You own one fund with the entire U.S. stock market, one with the entire international stock market, and a third fund with bonds to kind of smooth out the ride. It is simple, it is powerful, and it just works.
So how does this all work under the hood? Well, to get the engine behind this whole thing, we've got to quickly talk about two key ideas: risk and return.
Okay, first up is this idea of expected return. Now, this isn't what you're guaranteed to get. Just think of it like this. If you could run your investment strategy in like 1,000 different parallel universes, your expected return would just be the average result you got across all of them.
And that leads us to the fundamental trade-off in all of investing. It's pretty simple, really. To get a higher expected return, you have to be willing to take on more calculated risk. Cash is perfectly safe, but its expected return is 0. Bonds are a little riskier, so they have a higher expected return. And stocks are the riskiest of the three, but historically, they also give you the highest expected return, around 10%.
So you might be thinking, why take any risk? Why not just keep my money safe in cash? Well, the answer is one word: inflation. And this quote just says it all. Inflation is this quiet, relentless force that makes your money worth less every single year. A $50 burrito sounds nuts, but over a long time, it's pretty much a guarantee. Holding cash is its own kind of risk.
Okay, let's bring this all home. How do you actually put this simple, powerful portfolio into action?
You do it with something called a total market index fund. You don't have to sit there and try to pick winning stocks. With just one purchase of a fund like VTI, you can own a tiny piece over 3,500 different U.S. companies. You are literally buying the entire market in one click.
So what's inside one of these things? Well, they're market cap weighted, which is just a fancy way of saying that the biggest companies make up the biggest slices of the fund. So a fund like VTI is going to have a lot of money in giants like Nvidia and Apple, and it all rebalances automatically for you. You don't have to do a thing.
And here it is. This might be the single most critical piece of the puzzle for your long-term success. It's all about low fees. They're also called expense ratios, and these tiny little percentages get taken out of your investment every year. Over decades, they compound and can just destroy a huge chunk of your profits. This is why John Bogle's obsession with low costs was so revolutionary. So, here's the ultimate takeaway. The goal here isn't to become a day trader, glued to a screen stressing about every little dip. No, the goal is to be the person who invests in a simple, low-cost portfolio, basically forgets about it, and somehow still outperforms 99% of those traders. You want to be the person who makes them mad with your boring, predictable success.
So it all boils down to this one simple question. Now that you've seen the path of the gambler who relies on luck and the path of the strategist who relies on probability, what kind of investor are you going to be?